Hey guys, welcome back to the channel dedicated to helping you earn more, spend less, and invest the difference. Teaching you all those financial principles that school never prepared you for. Now, in the spirit of being upfront and honest with you guys, I will first start out this video by openly admitting that I am the only person that I at least know of that has this opinion when it comes to retirement accounts. The conventional wisdom is if you are trying to save for retirement, the order in which you would need to fund your different accounts is typically if you work at a job that offers a matching contribution to your 401k, you're gonna first start by putting in as much money into your 401k to at least get that full matching contribution. And then after that, swap over and fund a Roth IRA and max that out for the year. And then if you want to contribute even more money than that to your retirement account, at that point you would swap back to your 401k and continue to make contributions to that even though you're no longer getting a match. That is the conventional wisdom. That is what 99.9% of the YouTubers out there that offer financial advice are talking about. It's what all the blogs talk about. Big names like Dave Ramsey, that's what they recommend.
First one you want to do before you do anything is take the match. You have a 3% match, you want to take the match because there's nothing that beats doubling your money on day one.
And on the surface, that sounds like a no-brainer, right? Get that free money, get that matching contribution. Unfortunately, it's not that simple. There's a lot more things going on behind the scenes that can dramatically affect things. And I think that's where everybody else fails. And so while this video is going to be much more technical than the majority of my videos, there is some very sound mathematical principles that show that there's a pretty decent chance that starting with the 401k match is not the best route to go. So like I said, I admit that I am one of the few people that actually thinks this way. So if you disagree with me, if you've heard that this is not the right way to go about things, by all means, feel free to leave a comment down below. I'd love to have an interaction with you guys and maybe learn something from you, and hopefully you learn something from me. But before you start leaving negative comments, do me a favor and at least watch the video to the end and hear some of the mathematical principles behind all of this stuff. So with a Roth IRA, it's an individual retirement account. You as the individual open this account. You're the one that picks what assets go into this account. So if you want to buy stocks or bonds or ETFs, if you want to buy specific stocks, you can do whatever it is that you want with this thing because you as the individual are setting it up. Unlike the 401k, which is also a retirement account, it's also got some tax benefits. So I mean, there's definitely some similarities, but a 401k is something that your job, your boss sets up. They set it up, they manage it, they dictate all of the rules as far as what's going on with this thing. And for that reason, 401ks are dramatically different from one company to another. Yeah, they're all still going to have the same tax benefits, but the implementation and how they actually operate is going to be dramatically different. Some 401ks are going to have a matching contribution, some are not. Some are going to offer hardship withdrawals, some don't. Some you might be able to get a 401k loan, some don't. But one thing that all 401ks have in common is since your boss, your employer, is the one that's ultimately setting this stuff up, somebody else is managing this for you, that means there's going to be some fees involved. And since somebody else is managing this, then somebody else is picking which assets go into this 401k. So unlike an IRA where you have complete control, you can buy individual stocks or you can buy ETFs or you can do whatever you want, in a 401k, you don't get to pick exactly what assets you buy. Now you might have a couple of different options, but ultimately the 401k provider is going to give you a variety of different plans or programs, and these are preset programs. So you might pick which program you want to invest in, but the exact details is out of your control. Now, some 401k providers have a wide variety of different assets, of different plans that you can purchase. And some 401k providers charge relatively low fees, and some don't. And so it's all of these little things as far as the fine print details that is going to ultimately determine which one is the better product. Because even little changes can make a big difference, considering that we're probably going to have this money in this account for a very long time. I mean, if you are 25 years old and investing in this thing, then there's a decent chance that this money could be in there for the next 40 years. So even subtle changes with fees or which assets you're purchasing can have an enormous difference in the final outcome. But first, let's back it up a little bit and talk about that matching contribution, because that's ultimately what it all hinges upon, is that free money. So the way it works is, let's say that your 401k offers a dollar for dollar match up to 3%. So let's keep the numbers nice and simple. Let's say you make $100,000 a year. So if you put in 3%, if you put in $3,000 into your 401k, your boss is also going to put in $3,000 into your account. So now you have $6,000, so you have instantly doubled your money. But it's not quite that simple, because when it comes to a 401k, there's a concept called vesting. And basically vesting is, do you get to keep that money when you leave your job? So if your boss just put in that $3,000 into your account yesterday and then you quit, do you get to keep that $3,000, or does your boss get to take that back? And that's a matter of whether you're vested or not. Now, about 46% of all 401ks, you are immediately vested into your account. So yes, you could quit your job the very next day after your employer put those matching contributions in, and you would be able to keep that money. But not all 401ks are you immediately vested into your account. The most common other types of ways to become vested is a 5-year tiered graded system or a 3-year cliff. So with a 5-year graded system, every year that you stay at your particular company, you would gain 20% of whatever your boss put in for those matching contributions. So if you stayed for 1 year, you would be able to get 20% of that $3,000 match that your boss had put in there for you. So you would be able to keep $600 in your account, but when you quit your job after 1 year, your boss would be able to claw back, they would be able to take as a refund $2,400 that they had previously put into your account. So in this system, every year you get another 20% up until after year 5, when at that point you get all of the money. You are completely vested in your 401k. The other common option is a 3-year cliff, which means that if you quit your job anytime before 3 years, so if you quit at 2 years and 11 months, your boss can take 100% of what he put into your account back. And then after 3 years, you get to keep 100%. So that's the cliff-based system. It's either a go, no-go, yes or no type of a thing. And so this is going to be important, because when we're talking about a 401k match being the biggest reason that you're starting to invest in your 401k as opposed to an IRA, we need to make sure that we're actually getting that match. So if you are not immediately vested in your 401k, then you got to stop and think, how long do you think that you are realistically going to be working at this particular job? Because if they have a 3-year cliff-based system, and you think that you're probably only going to be with this company for a year or two, you just want to get a little bit of experience before you move on to bigger and better things, then you're actually not getting any match at all. So that's the first thing that you want to look out for when you're deciding to go with your 401k first, is find out what the vesting schedule is, and then see if you're actually going to be with that company long enough to make it worth your while. I get it, nobody can predict the future, but sometimes in the back of our mind we already have sort of a predefined plan of what we think might happen. But unfortunately, it's actually fairly rare to get a dollar-for-dollar match when it comes to a 401k. In fact, by and away, the most common matching contribution program out there, about 71% of all 401ks that offer a matching contribution only do a 50% match, meaning that for every $2 that you invest in your 401k, your boss will put in $1. Even if you actually do get that matching contribution, there's some other problems with the 401k that creep up. So the first one is you're limited to a predefined set of programs, of plans, of assets that you can buy. And when you're limited like that, that means that there's a fairly decent chance that the assets that you're actually interested in aren't even available to you. So when you're limited on which assets you can buy, that also limits what your returns can be. In addition to that, since you're paying somebody else to manage this 401k for you, there's going to be fees involved. And so those fees can slowly eat away at your profits. And once you consider that you're going to be invested for maybe 40 or 50 years into this account, small changes in your account balance based on these fees can have enormous differences once you start compounding for 40 years. And unfortunately, it's really hard to tell how much money it is that you're paying in fees, because there's all kinds of different fees that are involved, and these fees are buried deep within the legal mumbo jumbo of the account creation that nobody ever reads. There might be investment fees, administration fees, individual service fees, custodial fees, all kinds of fees that, when it's all said and done, add up to a lot of money. But since it's not very easy to decipher all of this stuff, nobody can put a real good, solid number on all of this stuff to see just how much they're actually paying in fees for this thing. And these fees are purposely hidden because these brokerage accounts that are servicing this 401k, they don't want you to know how much money that you're paying them in fees, because if you knew, you would probably be pissed off. And to make matters worse, some fees are a flat fee and some are a percentage of your overall account balance. So it might be a very beneficial fee structure for one person, but it might be a terrible fee structure for another person. It just depends on their particular account. So for example, the 401k program that's offered by Walmart, they have numerous different fees, but at least some of their fees, they're going to charge about $11.40 per year for various administrative purposes. And $11.40, that might be fine if you have $1 million in your account. But if you only have $100 in your account and you're paying $11.40 a year in fees, then that's going to be a very significant portion, and over time, that's actually going to wipe out your entire 401k. Like, you're not going to have any money in that account. And that's just for the annual types of fees. That's not an all-inclusive list of their fees. That's just the flat-based fees that they have. So when it's all said and done, the average returns of a 401k are going to be a fair amount less than the average returns of an IRA. Because in an IRA, you have much more control both on which assets you're purchasing, and you're not going to be paying all of those fees. So the average rate of return for a 401k is somewhere between 5 and 8% annually. It just kind of depends on how good your 401k is, how much you pay in fees, and then obviously which particular plan you're going for, how aggressive or how safe it is. So somewhere between 5 and 8%. So for the rest of this video, we're going to take just down the middle on that. We're going to take the average of that. So we're going to say that 401k gets 6.5% returns annually. But on the flip side, like I said, with the IRA, you have much more control. You're not paying those really high fees. So the average IRA returns somewhere between 7 and 10% annually. So for our purposes, once again, we're going right down the middle. We're going to say that an IRA returns 8.5% every year. So using those percentages as a rate of return, let's do a couple of quick scenarios. And we will just assume that whatever retirement account that it is you're contributing to, you are going to put in $500. And then it's a matter of, do you get a match or not? So if you put in $500 into your account every month for the next 40 years and continue to let this grow and compound at 8.5% interest in your IRA, at the end of those 40 years, you're gonna have over $1 million. You're gonna have $1,774,000 and some change. So that's gonna be kind of our baseline of what it is that we're looking at. And now let's look at a few 401k scenarios and see if we can beat that or not. So first, let's look at by far and away the most common matching contribution, that 50% match. So you have to put in $2 and your boss chips in $1. So in this case, we're still contributing $500 and our boss then would put in $250, so $750 total dollars. Same thing, 40 years, but at 6.5%, that rate that we decided that the average 401k yields. So in this example, we're looking at $1.58 million after 40 years. And that translates into a little bit under $200,000 less than if we had put it into our IRA at that higher rate of return, because we're not paying all of those fees and we're probably able to invest in just better overall superior assets. So now let's look at that minority, and let's assume that you are getting a 100% match, a dollar for dollar match, and you're still going to contribute $500 for 40 years, and once again at 6.5% interest. So this means that you're ultimately contributing $1,000 between your $500 and your boss's $500. So at the end of 40 years in this scenario, you have about $2,107,000. And so at first glance, you're like, well, that one easily beats the amount that was in your Roth IRA, so that should be a hands down winner in this case if you're getting the 100% match. But unfortunately, it gets a little bit more complicated than that, because with a Roth IRA, all of that money that you put in there is completely tax-free when you withdraw it. But a little known fact about a Roth 401k is that only the amount of money that you put into the account is going to be tax-free when you withdraw it. Any matching contributions that your boss puts in is not treated that way. It's treated like a traditional IRA or a traditional 401k. So ultimately, when you are contributing to a Roth 401k with an employee match, there is two separate balances. One balance is the Roth side of things, which is all of your contributions, and the other side is your employee match, which is treated like a traditional 401k. And so you're going to be paying taxes on this stuff. So if all we did was the matching contributions and it was 50-50, then you're going to be paying taxes on half of that balance that's in your Roth 401k once it is that you're finally taking money out of your account. And then it comes down to what tax bracket are you going to be in when you retire. And that's really hard to predict, but let's just arbitrarily pick a number, 25%. And so you're going to be paying 25% taxes on half of that money that's in your 401k, because half of it is treated as a traditional, that money that your boss put in, that employee match, is going to be treated traditionally, so you're going to get taxed on that. And the other half, the money that you put in to this Roth 401k, is actually treated like a Roth, and so that money is going to be completely tax-free. So if we run the numbers at 25%, that means ultimately you're going to have roughly $1,843,000 of actual useful dollars once you pay your taxes on that money. And assuming a 25% tax bracket, that does still put the 401k slightly ahead of the IRA in overall net worth by roughly $70,000 plus or minus. So it really depends on your tax bracket at the end. So in this scenario, the one-to-one matching contributions in the Roth 401k does come out slightly ahead, even once we account for an arbitrary 25% tax bracket, as opposed to strictly the Roth IRA. And it's going to get you roughly $70,000 more in our hypothetical example. So it is more, but not significantly more. And obviously, the end results are going to be determined on your individual tax bracket, as that can make some big differences. So, and then it really comes down to, did you get all of your matching contributions, or did you miss some because you weren't vested with that particular company? Because as soon as you miss one set of funds because you weren't vested with that particular company, then obviously that's going to shift the balance of power back towards the Roth if you don't get all of that matching contribution. So to summarize, if you're only getting a 2-to-1 match, a 50-cent match for every dollar that you put in, it's likely that the Roth IRA is actually going to get you more money in the end, as opposed to simply getting that matching contribution. Even though with the matching contribution you are getting free money, because the Roth IRA is probably going to have a higher rate of return, over the years that rate of return is going to more than offset that additional free money that you got at the beginning. And if you do get a 1-to-1 match, then it's possible that taking the matching contributions will actually be better, assuming a couple of things, assuming that you have an actual fairly decent 401k that doesn't charge exorbitant fees, and assuming that you're going to be in a relatively low tax bracket when you retire, because some of that money in your Roth 401k is actually going to be taxed when you withdraw it, because only your contributions are going to be tax free. And another thing that influences this is, since it's really the rate of return and the length of period with the IRA that kind of gives it a boost, then that also changes where we are in our investing career, because the younger you are and the more time that money has to compound, the more it shifts in favor of the Roth IRA. So if you're investing in your 20s or 30s, then that money might be best suited in the Roth IRA. Whereas if you're a little bit later and you don't have quite as long for that money to compound, then it might be worth it to kind of shift more towards that 401k and get that free money, that doubling or 50% extra of your money with that employee match, because that money is not going to have quite as long to grow and compound. So it's not going to matter quite as much if it has a slightly lower rate of return for the Roth 401k as a whole, as opposed to a Roth IRA. But I know that was sort of a long-winded and a little bit more technical explanation of all of this stuff. So I hope you guys were able to understand some of the points that I was trying to get across. I would love to hear some of your guys' thoughts and opinions on all of this. If you found educational content like this useful, be sure to leave a comment down below, subscribe, and as always, I'll see you all again next time. Thanks.